Going down to meet Lenny. Super excited. We opened the door. Hello. Good to see you. Don't mind the camera. Fine. Awesome. Well, Lenny, welcome. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time to talk to me today on this beautiful Saturday afternoon.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Luba. Cheers.
I actually set up a Twitter account 2 weeks ago, and this week I've been exploring the weeds of Twitter.
Congrats.
And thank you. It's like a really big milestone and accomplishment for me, and I'm feeling very overwhelmed with Twitter. I'm like not quite a native Twitter user. There's like so much information, and I see you are actually super active on Twitter. Tell me more about that. Like, how often do you Twitter day? Do you cap your Twitter usage?
I guess the way I think about using Twitter is, as a consumer, it's an incredible place to just find out what the hell's happening in the world and just with people that you're interested in, especially tech. As a producer of content, I find that if I have something that I think is interesting to people, it's just an amazing place to share value. And if you're sharing value with people, they're going to follow you. They're going to, share your stuff. They're going to want to hear more of what you're saying.
I noticed that Twitter is very much a Silicon Valley tool. Like I see a lot more people being active on Twitter than Instagram, for instance. So when I just started exploring Twitter more this week, I was like, oh, wow, these people are all so active on Twitter and I never see them post anything on Instagram. So that's very interesting. So did your writing start with tweets? How did you get into writing to begin with? Because your Medium articles are so well thought out and so well put together. Yeah, I'm very impressed with, how much time do you actually spend writing them and how did it all happen?
Way too much time. So I left Airbnb about 6 months ago. I was there for 7 years. And when I left, I was trying to think about what the hell did I actually learn in this experience? If I look back, what did I take away? And I found that to do that, I had to write it down. So I started writing down. And through that, one, realized, hey, this could be useful to other people. Two, maybe I should do more of this just because it's useful to me to crystallize things that I'm learning. And so it came out of, someone had this great quote, I think, Joan Didion.
Who's Joan Didion?
Joan Didion, she's an author. And I think she said something like, I don't know what I think until I've written it down. And I feel that myself. I often don't know what the heck I think until I've written it and I've figured out the words to use and then have kind of, like bump, kind of like bullet points of things that I can remember and come back to. So I started doing that with Airbnb learnings. I tried to think about what did I take away from my time at Airbnb. And so I landed with 7 things over 7 years that I took away from it around culture and growth and focus and things like that. So that led to that article. And with that, I ran it by the founders to make sure they were happy with it and got a lot of feedback.
Would you say that your writing skill has been cultivated in your product management role? I'm now exploring to see what is it like to be a product manager. And it seems like writing is a really essential skill of a good product manager because you have to communicate well. You have to write docs to convince other people in your vision and influence them indirectly because you don't necessarily have all the power to say, hey, this is what we're doing.
Right.
So I want to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah,
would you say that's true?
I would even step back from writing, and I think communication in general is an extremely important part of being a product manager. Writing is a part of that. What I found now that I'm learning to write is, one, how much more effective it would have made me if I were to go back and be a product manager, just realizing how much power writing has. So I have this friend, Vanessa, who actually went back to Airbnb recently, and she's been a writer her whole life. And I talked to her about this recently. And she's an incredible writer. And just watching her send emails and do meetings and write decks just shows you the power of writing and just someone that actually is trained to do this. I guess coming back to your question, if you think about what the hell does a product manager do all day? Engineers write code, designers create designs, product managers, they talk and they write all day. That's their entire job. And so obviously it's the better you are at those things, the better you're going to be, especially writing and then speaking. Those two things are super important. And I'm curious what happens now that I've kind of learned a little bit about writing, what happens if I come back to that role someday.
Do you think you would come back to that role someday?
I'm not sure. So I'm giving myself a year to figure out what I want to do next. It's been 6 months. I'm hoping to start a company, which as a CEO, you're sort of a product manager, sort of not. But, if that doesn't work out, I might come back to just being a product manager somewhere again.
Just being a product
manager. Yeah.
So that actually segues really well into a question that I had for you. I want you to go back, I guess, 7 years or 8 years in time. And you were running your own company before you went to be a product manager at Airbnb. The company was called Local Mind, right?
Yep.
Can you tell me a bit more about how that whole acquisition happened? I'm sure like Airbnb coming up to you 8 years ago or however long that was is probably different from how Airbnb makes acquisitions these days. Like how did you guys get acquired?
Oh man, so many things to talk about. So maybe a quick background. So I was working in San Diego at a job as an engineer and engineering manager. I was there for 7 years, and at 7 years in, I kind of had this decision I made with myself that I was going to start a company in 2 years.
Gave yourself a time.
Gave myself a timeline.
Yeah,
because it was 2008 or 9, I think, and there's all these companies being started and all this stuff in tech.
You were like, I want to be that too.
I want to do that. It's like, I want to try this. What's the worst that could happen if I try this thing and it doesn't work out?
So wait, so how did you get approached to get acquired? So you got a bunch of press.
Yeah.
And what happened?
So that was a fun story. So we moved to San Francisco. San Francisco from Montreal. And a year after that, the head of product, Joe Bott at Airbnb, Joe Zade, came to us and he's like, hey, remember we met at South by and we were chatting about what you guys are up to? And I was like, I don't remember that at all. And I think I was just like very drunk at some party and got introduced to him and he remembered and I didn't, which turned out well. He wanted...
Happens to me all the time. Not for being drunk reasons, but depends.
Yeah. But it works out. Sometimes it works out. And so he wanted to see what we could do together. They were going through this phase where they were developing the Snow White journey.
Right. The one
which I can talk about. Where they were basically trying to figure out what are the key moments of a journey of a host and a guest that we want to get right. And one of them was, I'm out and about in the city. What should I be doing? Who should I meet? What's out there? And they wanted to acquire us to build that for Airbnb, find a way for guests to get together in a city and have a good time.
Yeah, I even have a quote actually from, I think it was Brian Chesky's quote about how they're going to use. Oh man.
Local Mind?
Yeah, Local Mind here. The role of social in travel is more important than ever. We've seen connections shape the experience for our community, so we're excited to have the Local Mind team join us and lead the next wave of social products.
Look at that. We're so important.
So what happened? Did the product ever make itself to Airbnb's product?
Yeah. So we ended up doing the deal and joining, and the plan was, we're not sure what's going to happen to Local Mind, but help us build this thing in the meantime.
Yeah.
And it was cool because it was the company was highly influenced by IDEO and design thinking. And so we had like 8 months just to kind of think about what this could be and iterate and do research on the product instead of just going straight to building, which was very unnatural for us because we're just like build. But their push to us was like, let's understand the problem. Let's figure out 15 ways we could solve this problem. Let's prototype, then let's test them, then let's actually build. So we spent a bunch of time talking to travelers, staying in hostels, because hostels are, in a sense, Airbnb and hostels are the complete opposite experience. In a hostel, you're surrounded by people everywhere, just kind of doing things together, finding things to do. In Airbnb, you're all alone, sometimes with a host, siloed in the city. And so they wanted to bring a little bit of that to the Airbnb experience to help you find people to hang out with. And so we came up with 15 different ways we could do this. One of Brian was very excited about was imagine if there's a bat signal in a city that goes out and all the Airbnb guests gather there and do a flash mob or have a dance party or something like that.
Or go rancing.
Go rancing. Man, they could have come up with rancing earlier.
Back then?
Yeah. And rancing is an Airbnb experience, right? Where you just dance.
Right. You like run and you dance at the same time. It's actually pretty awesome. Did you go to one?
I haven't done it.
It's pretty amazing. It's like you're just on the high of running and doing something that's kind of stupid in a way.
Rancing.
Yeah. I mean, rancing is like a lot of fun. Why I'm saying stupid is because like you're dancing and you're running at the same time, and like someone has this big speaker and you have like the glow lights and maybe like an interesting outfit, and people are just like always looking at you like, who are these guys? Like, what are they doing? But then they kind of get into it as well.
Yeah. Sometimes the funnest things are the simplest things.
Yes, exactly.
And an Airbnb employee came up with that idea, right? And I think it's one of the more popular experiences.
Which one?
Chris Wren, I think.
Oh, Airbnb. Yeah, Chris,
Airbnb
Chris
boy,
is the yeah.
Anyway,
So when you joined Airbnb, did you make a transition from engineer to product manager immediately, or was it just kind of after some time?
yeah, so I was an engineer my entire life at Airbnb.
Right.
Up until Airbnb. I got to Airbnb as an engineer. I was reporting to this guy, Raf, who you may know.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So he's my manager and
Nice.
reported to the CTO. And I was the CEO of our startup. And as the CEO, you kind of lead the team. And at Airbnb, our team stayed together, and I continued to lead it. And in a sense, I was in every PM meeting. I was doing PME things. And Joe Butter had a product. It was just like, you should just become a PM. What are you doing? So I had that input. And then also just seeing the caliber of engineering at Airbnb, it was clear to me I was not going to be successful as an engineer at Airbnb because it's such a high bar. So partly out of self-preservation and partly out of
self-preservation.
Partly out of like, oh, this is really fun. I think I enjoy this better. I switched to product. So about 6 months in, I decided to do that. And I'd never done product before. And I realize now I had no idea what I was doing for probably 4 years, but eventually figured it out.
What would you recommend people that are thinking of going down the PM route, coming from engineering, but I'm not quite sure, like what are the things to look out for? Or what are the signals that PM might be right for you or not?
I wrote a really detailed post about this on Medium called how to get into product management and thrive. But I'd say a simple way to think about it is figure out what fulfills you. If you're fulfilled by actually building the thing and figuring out how to build it and engineer it, you probably will enjoy engineering. If you are more fulfilled and figure out what to build and why to build it and how to think about the big picture of the business and the product, you might be more fulfilled as a product manager. But I'm still super fulfilled by just building, and I still code here and there.
Right.
So I do miss that, and I think that's okay if you miss that. The thing you want to think about is what do you miss? What do you want to do more, and what fulfills you more? And then there's just like long-term career aspirations. Do you want to start a company? Product management's a good experience for that. Do you want to be, lead managers? Do you want to be a CTO? So a lot of it depends also on where you want to be in your career.
Right. So you mentioned, thinking about what fulfills you. So it's basically kind of the idea of looking at a job description and seeing the outcome, the impact that you're going to have. Is it something that you're interested or not? But what are your thoughts about actually looking into what is it that you're going to do day to day and the skills that you're going to learn? Because I feel like a lot of the times, you can look at the job description and at a long-term vision of what kind of things you're going to be driving, and it might sound great, but the day-to-day grind might actually suck for you personally.
Yeah. Like the day-to-day job of a PM is no bueno. It's not like a fun thing to think about. So I think you're totally right. You should actually understand what you're going to be doing day to day, which is a lot of meetings, a lot of emails, a lot of documents, a lot of checking in with people, a lot of talking, basically. So yeah, I guess to do that, you could shadow a PM, you could talk to a PM about what they're doing all day. The best thing, like one of the best things you can do is take on a project from a PM and just PM it and see how it goes, which will force you to do all the things you got to do as a PM. The one thing you don't have as a PM is any flow. There's no flow states really, unlike engineering where you can just put the headphones on and just go get in there. As a PM, your life is interruptions.
Protect your IC time.
yeah.
As an engineer.
So exactly. And you want to enable your engineers to find flow states and go deep.
Right.
And so they call PMs shit umbrellas often. I don't know if we can curse on this thing. But
that's okay. If we can drink, we can curse.
Okay, great. Cheers.
Cheers. So 6 months ago, you decided to move on. What was that thinking process was like? Because, a lot of the times it's like 4-year mark is a place where people are like, oh, okay, I'm moving on to some other company or maybe earlier than that. You stayed at Airbnb for 7 years or a little over 7 years.
Just about 7.
Yeah. Why 7-year mark? What made you pull the trigger and decide to move on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I found that every year I just kind of checked in, like, what am I still doing here? This has been a long time. No one stays at companies this long. And I found that every year I was just like super happy, learning a lot, trying different things, had amazing teams, amazing managers, amazing colleagues. And so I had no real reason to ever leave up until around 7 years. And it's not like anything happened. I basically went on a sabbatical. We get the sabbatical program.
The recharge?
Yeah, the recharge. And I added a little bit of unpaid time to it. So I had 3 months off. And I found that when I got back, I kind of gave myself a month to decide, do I want to stick around or do I want to try some new? And I found that as soon as I got back, my heart was just fully ready to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
I felt
So it's kind of like a gut check, a gut feeling.
yeah, super like in a, I don't know if emotional is the right word, but very like non-rational. Serendipitous.
Not so much. I just remembered about your whole serendipity story with the app and the project. So
yeah, I guess
not quite.
I don't know, a lot of things came into it. And so initially I was just like, man, I'm like done with this. I feel like I've done the same kind of thing over and over now, and it might be time for some new.
Mm-hmm.
So my heart was ready to do some new, but my brain wasn't there yet. I was still like, man, I'm going to give up good salary and benefits and health insurance, all these things. What am I thinking? And so I needed to kind of bring my brain along.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did was talk to all the different roles all the managers that were hiring for new roles, try some totally different. And I talked to them all, and one by one, I kind of checked my check boxes of, nope, not that, not that, not that. And when I ran out, it's like, no, it's time.
What were the what was this checkbox list?
Basically, different teams at Airbnb. There's
I see.
I think it's public, but there's like a team working on transportation.
Mm-hmm.
There's team working on professional hosting.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Hotel Tonight acquisition.
Yeah.
That was a role I was thinking about. That kind of thing, and nothing spoke to me.
That makes sense. So how are you splitting your time right now?
So what's happened is, I had kind of these 3 tracks of my life: startup exploration, writing, and consulting and advising.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I've done that's helped me a lot, I don't know if I've shared this with you, is I have this sprint model that I use that
interesting.
I took from a friend of mine who does it also, who's also in a similar place,
Mm-hmm.
but employed, where every 2 weeks I put together, here's my goals for the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a theme for the next 2 weeks. And then I email out to a bunch of friends. And I find that just sending that email makes me feel like I got to do these things. It works really well. Like it literally gets me out running and meditating and writing, just because I don't want to look bad in these emails.
So it's basically that accountability component that you think is the most useful.
Absolutely. It's magical. I just send this email and I'm like, shit, I got to do all these things. And another thing a friend inspired me to do is I use a Trello board now, where I kind of plan out a little bit per day what I want to roughly get done.
I just started using Trello for my YouTube video planning.
What a great product.
So easy to use.
We got to get them a sponsors for the show.
Yeah, that would be great. That's a good idea.
Let's work on that.
Cold emailing them right after this recording. So, I actually, on that accountability point, someone just recently told me about the service called focusmate.com, where you get paired up with a person, like a real time, and you have to have your video on.
Right.
Yeah, and then you tell them like on the call, hey, this is what I'm going to be working on. And you can share your screen if you want to. You don't have to. It's just going to be a video of you. And like if you go like have a bathroom break or like do something around the apartment during that time, you have to tell them like, hey, I'm leaving my desk because of X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I've had two sessions this week. Yeah.
And how'd it go?
It was pretty good, actually, mostly because I did still have my distractions during that hour, despite the fact that, like that person on the other side, they know they know what I'm up to. But at the same time, just, thinking about it actively, and also even just blocking that 15-minute block of, hey, like I'm focusing on this specific task at this time and I have to do it, is actually really powerful. It's not quite the same as what you're talking about. It's not it's not future, like 2-week future forwarded, like the sprints.
Yeah, but it's the same idea.
15 minutes
it's just
time.
like a short-term version of that idea.
Yeah.
That's
and
really smart.
It actually came out, I think, I just read Founder's story of the same problem of like, hey, accountability. I just did it with a friend, and then we decided to build out the system.
I love it.
Yeah.
I should try that. Speaking of productivity tricks, another thing that I do, especially for writing, I find this really powerful, is a combination of nootropics. Do you know about nootropics?
I know about them. I haven't quite explored the topic. Tell us more about it.
There's this whole field of adaptogens, I think they're called, that kind of help your brain work faster and better for a short period of time, and it's all natural. So I have a friend that's developing this nootropic drink that has like matcha and ashwagandha and
yerba mate or something. No?
Not yerba mate. It's very low on caffeine actually. And what else? Theanine and a few other things. Anyway, I find that so I take that plus the service called Brain FM.
I've heard, the music that helps you focus.
Yeah. So those two combined, it
really helps.
Gives me so much focus when I just take it and then to put on my headphones and just write. It's amazing. It's like life-changing.
So you're trying like beta testing your friend's product, right?
Yeah.
Have you tried anything that's already on the market?
Yeah, I used to use Alpha Brain.
Oh yeah, okay, I know Alpha Brain.
Which
I
sometimes
actually believe I did buy Alpha Brain at some point.
it's very expensive.
Yeah, wasn't it also really heavy on caffeine?
I think that one, those are different.
Yeah.
So this guy's been developing it for a number of years, and he's gonna release it at the end of this year.
Any way to get on the beta?
Yeah, I'll hook you up.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so basically nootropics and Brain FM.
Yeah, that's been really effective just to focus.
Lenny, how can everyone find you?
I'm on Twitter at Lenny San, S-A-N, and my newsletter is myname.com or just lenny.substack.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for talking to me.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Luba. This was amazing. What a podcast. Thank you.
Welcome to the meeting.